This has to be one of the most melodic solos of all time. And it's been covered a lot, but there's this other thing that no one really talks about. And it's not that obvious, but when you see it, it's gonna blow your mind. And so like all of us, the first time I heard the solo of Bohemian Rhapsody, I was completely shocked. I was shocked at the beauty of the melodic lines. I was shocked at the arrangement, and it just had such a massive impact. And the thing is, it's not just Brian's guitar, it's everything. All the instruments are playing their part, and each part is so important. Just remove one instrument from the whole thing and it just doesn't work. In the same way, if you add something to it, it's just not the same. It's just the perfect arrangement. So ever since I've heard that for the first time, I've been on a quest wanting to replicate the way that Brian was approaching this solo. So this was the mid-90s, and at the time I had just started playing guitar. So my first step was just to get the tabs and learn the solo of Bohemian Rhapsody. And now that was a shock, because the solo was not made of the typical minor pentatonic scale that I had learned. And in my mind, every solo has to be played in the minor pentatonic scale. But I worked through it, and even though the fingerings were kind of awkward, I got to a point where I could play those lines fairly well. At least it was recognizable. And that was the first time that I was exposed to a guitar solo that was not born from scales and patterns. See, the whole solo has a very vocal quality to it, and it's no wonder that it does, because Brian May was just singing the parts before playing the parts on the instrument. And so I tried to incorporate that into my own guitar playing, and it did make a difference in the sense that the solos were more recognizable, they were more theme-driven, a lot less scale and pattern-driven, but I was still really far from that thing that I had perceived from the solo of Bohemian Rhapsody. There was something missing. Flash forward 20 years. But now I know more technique, I know scales, I know how music works, and I'm still missing that thing that Brian had. And I knew that that thing was not the scale, it was not even the vocal quality to the solo, it was just something else. Everything clicked on September 18th, 2007. See, that day I had a few hours to kill, so I decided to go into the local music store, and I went into the sheet music section, just browsing through, looking at what they had, and I find the transcription of Bohemian Rhapsody. So the music book I had in hands was not just the tabs, it was the whole orchestration of Bohemian Rhapsody. And I could see all the layers, all the instrumentation, not only Brian May's guitar, but also the bass, the keys, the drums. Everything was there. And something compelled me, even though I knew how to play that song, to purchase the book, go back home, and follow the sheet music as I listened to the real recording. And that was quite different from anything I had done before, because now, not only could I hear what was going on, but I could visually see the movement of the melodic lines. It's something you don't really see with guitar tabs. Here, I could see the ascending lines, the descending lines, all of those movements. And after listening to Bohemian Rhapsody several times and following along what Brian May was playing, I decided to focus on the bass. And eventually I got to a point where not only was I following what the bass was doing, but also Brian May at the same exact time. I was looking at both parts. And that's where I realized that whenever the bass was going down, Brian was going up. And I could now visually see what I was hearing. And it was beautiful. It filled in the whole space. It was not a linear way of playing. See, all the instruments playing in their own range and going up and down in opposite directions created a thickness, layers that I was missing in the other melodic songs that I would try to study to understand what was going on. Could that be the missing piece? Well, I had to find out. I created myself a very simple backing track, just a few chords, and on top of the chords, I created a simple bass line. And then I grabbed my guitar and I made sure to create something that would go in the opposite direction than the bass, trying to fill in that space. I didn't want to compete with anything. I wanted to create something where all the instruments had their place, trying to create something with different layers where each instrument had their place, very much like a Bohemian Rhapsody. Now, the result was very interesting, quite different from anything else I had ever done. It was less predictable, yet very fitting, and I found that it was really difficult to change whatever I had recorded, almost as if I had played the exact line that had to be played on this chord progression. Now, I carried this with me throughout my career as a guitar player, and it was really interesting because not only did it help my guitar playing, but it also helped my confidence. See, I felt that what I was playing was really me, and there was no sense of competition. I was just playing the part that had to be played. And the result of that was that I was way more happy as a guitar player. Now, truth be told, it actually took me a little while to really embrace the concept. I was still fighting it. I was still kind of stuck with the old ways, the pentatonic way, the licks, the automatic fingering, the sequences, until I discovered this one thing that really made a difference when I was trying to implement this layered way of playing. I want you to have that. It's right here in this video. Watch it. It's free. It's really going to help you progress way faster than I did. It's right there.